All right, so welcome back here to the WCG USA National Finals right here at the New York Comic-Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. Again, I'm Corey Dunn alongside Axel Toss, and we are already underway with map number 1 to kick off this StarCraft Day. We'll go ahead and claim it StarCraft Day here at the New York Comic-Con. Let's go ahead and take it away.
I approve. Of course, this is going to be the first best of 3 of a very long day. Very intense StarCraft 2 day. Again, thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you're tuning in online, go ahead and tweet, go to Reddit, go to Team Liquid, tell people this is going on, tell people to tune in because it's pretty freaking awesome. We're trying to find a representative from the USA to represent in China at the World Finals WCG. This is the first best of 3 in the winner's bracket. In the top right-hand location, we have the Purple Terran player QXC from Team Complexity, a huge favorite in this tournament. We'll have to see if he can get it done. It's his opponent in the bottom left-hand location. It's the Teal Zerg player, RSM. Now, it's important to note in the bracket, he's actually listed as Please Leave Duck for the purposes of this cast to make things a little bit simpler.
Yep.
We're just going to refer to him as RSM.
Makes sense to me.
Hopefully he's okay with that, but it's going to be a little bit easier for us. But yeah, it's going to be ZVT on Shakuras Plateau. And of course, this is a best of 3. So again, it's first 2 wins.
Right.
People are familiar with the best of 3. But yeah, it's Shakuras Plateau. We can talk about the map a little bit. Some call it a little bit older. I personally have it vetoed as a Protoss player because I'll actually tell you why. There's a lot of drop area on this map. There's a lot of airspace. So playing against Terran can be pretty tough as a Zerg or a Protoss. You got to be really cautious of where your opponent is at all times. StarCraft 2 is a game that's about vision. It's all about vision, to be honest. If you know exactly what your opponent is doing, you're going to be set up extremely nicely. Of course, we can see the vision of QXC right now, scouting his opponent's natural expansion, seeing that his opponent's hatchery is already up and running, going to the main base, going to check on the gas timings, of course. Once you see that gas, you can be like, all right, 3 minutes from when the gas goes down, my opponent is able to get speed out of his Zerglings, which means I should be a little bit more careful, because if my opponent has speed on those Zerglings, I can be a little bit vulnerable, because those things are pretty freaking scary. And, you know, we'll have to see how QXC reacts. He's going for a very fast expansion of his zone, and we see RSM going for a very fast third. So both of these players really focusing on their economies at this point in time. We see RSM building some links here, again, trying to get that early map control. QXC opening up with a factory. In the ZVT matchup, something that can help you out a lot as a Terran player is those Hellions. Hellions instrumental against those Zerglings. They're pretty much the direct counter. So we're going to see RSM build a few Zerglings in the early game. QXC is going to go for that Hellion production. He's going to use these to take early map control and, if he can, try to pressure his opponent. Now, that can be difficult to do on a map like Shakuras Plateau. There's a relatively narrow ramp leading to that natural. So, you know, if we're talking about the doability of QXC being able to run by with the Hellions to get after his opponent's economy, which is what RSM is investing a lot in right now, it's not going to be high, especially considering RSM adding on another queen. Now, if we're talking about early defenses from the Zerg player, because right now, again, RSM focusing on that economy. What he's focused on is defending that economy, making sure that can get up so he can really start building his army. So early defending options are early queens and mainly spine crawlers. So I would expect RSM to possibly put a spine crawler here in the near future or just outside here so that he can start preventing the Hellions from running by. Because if the Hellions can run by and get after your drones, then the whole purpose of investing early into your economy, it's gone. Because if you're investing early into your economy and your opponent all of a sudden kills all your drones, then obviously that's not worth it at all. So we're going to see QXC trying to get that damage done with these Hellions, going directly to that watchtower, taking down that Zergling, taking that map control, and then, of course, another utility behind these Hellions. Beyond just going after his opponent's economy, QXC should be actively trying to identify, okay, what is my opponent doing? He's going to poke up here. He's going to see the Evo Chamber. He's going to see the Spine Crawler. He's going to see this third base. So now, all of a sudden, he knows his opponent's has elected to invest in that economy, so he's going to try to disrupt it as much as possible. We see 4 Hellions coming forward. We see a Banshee in that production tab, also researching Cloak, of course, which makes that Banshee invisible, which can help QXC do a lot of damage. Here come the Hellions, and it looks like RSM, again, we talked about having those defenses, the Spine and the Queen, able to get QXC out of there. So QXC is not going to feel like pressured to go in. It's not going to be possible. If he tries to commit those Hellions, they're probably going to die, so QXC going to stay back for now. All right, so See what else is going to happen here. Now, we see RSM... QXC actually coming to this third base. These drones are incredibly vulnerable. RSM is going to have to split those up. QXC taking out some lings along the way. Look at the splitting from the drones. Nice splitting, but that doesn't really matter if you don't have anything to defend the drones, to be honest. So he's just going to make some buildings here and there. That's one thing you can do to save your drones. Make a evolution chamber and cancel it. Make a gas. But QXC getting some nice damage done there with these early Hellions. Banshee coming forward as well. Cloak is about to finish. So we're going to see how much damage QXC can do with this. There's no Spore Crawler at the natural. There is one in the mineral line, but we'll have to see if this Banshee cloaks anytime soon. He's thinking about it. You can see the vision of RSM. Sees those invisible bullets coming out of the air, and QXC trying to apply a little bit of pressure here with these Hellions. See the lings from RSM swinging around, trying to surround those Hellions. QXC going to back away. The Banshee still doing a bit of damage. RSM should reposition the Spore Crawler to come up closer or make an Overseer. But in order to make an Overseer, you need that layer. And the layer is only 70% of the way done. So QXC able to get a lot of damage done with this Banshee. If we look at the income tab really quick, this displays the economy. We have 50 Harvesters there for QXC, 45 for RSM. So QXC doing a great job economically. RSM trying to swing around with the lings, trying to get that surround, but the Hellions, they're driving incredibly fast. They're trying to stay away. And we see great micro there from QXC, able to keep those Hellions alive. Because once you lose these Hellions, you lose your map control. You lose your ability to pressure, and all of a sudden the Zerg feels incredibly safe. So very good job there from QXC, keeping those Hellions alive. And we still see these Banshees being incredibly annoying. 12 workers killed by QXC. Now RSM still has this base up here alive, but not a lot of drones here. Trying to saturate those gases. We see also he's going up to Spire, progressing with that tech. The layer has just finished. Where did he build that Spire? I have no idea where he built that. Did he hide it? Oh no, here it is. It's like, where's Waldo, man? So yeah, the Spire's on the way. Of course, that enables him to make those Mutalisks, which again is a method for getting that map control back, because QXC's Banshees, QXC's Hellions, they don't shoot up. They don't shoot up. Mutas are air units, and you know, once the Mutas get on the field, you can start dealing with the Banshees, dealing with the Hellions, getting that map control back. But in the meantime, a lot of drones still dying. QXC up 108 to 74 in that supply count, showing that he has, you know, he came to play. That's one thing you can look at the supply to see. Okay, what's the score? What's the score here? And we see it's 118 to 76. So QXC well ahead in that regard, taking down so many drones at this third base. RSM might be some mutual friendliness here. Not sure what's going on there. But yeah, the point is QXC really pulling ahead in this game, and now it's up to RSM to figure out a way to get back into this, and he's going to try to make it happen with these Mutas. But QXC sees this. He might even be able to take down this Spire with just 2 Banshees. Spore Crawler going to try to reposition itself before the Banshees can take down this Spire. RSM does not want to lose this Spire, desperately trying to lower the Spore Crawler, but the Spire will end up falling, and the Banshees, actually one Banshee going to fall. And both Banshees going to fall, but the Spire is gone. RSM going to have to remake that, which means he's going to lose all that ability to be aggressive. Except with, I think he's going to have 6 Mutas on the field. 6 Mutas against an army like this, it's not going to do much. I'm sorry to say, but it's not going to do much at all. 1 Muta going to die there. QXC he came to play. QXC is showing, he's in a commanding lead right now. He's doubled his opponent's supply, and QXC is poised to win this game.
What are some of the things that we look at in the beginning part of this game that's kind of collected that got us to this point?
A large point was, again, we saw RSM in RSM.
He's already called, yeah.
Of course, GG, implying the end of the game. So QXC takes down game 1, but to answer your question, RSM really invested into that economy in the early part of that game. QXC identified this early with his Hellions. He poked up to that third and say, hey, that's an early third hatchery. I don't want to let that happen. So then he gets some Banshees on the field. He gets cloaked. RSM is completely unprepared for that. And QXC was able to get so many worker kills that game. And it does show the workers killed. Yeah, killed unit count. 79. Look at the killed units count. 79 to 10 in favor of QXC. So the story behind that game was QXC's ability to get that damage done. And as a Zerg player, you have to have the drones out so you can really start building up your army. We talked about it in the pregame a little bit. Zergs want to get to Infestor Broodlord. That's what they want to get to. A lot of Zergs are going to have different paths to get there. RSM said, okay, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to invest a lot in my economy. I'm going to get a bunch of drones, and then I'm going to go into my Infestor Broodlord eventually. But we saw that he got all those drones out. He had nothing to deal with the Hellions and the Banshees, and then QXC was able to get all that damage done, and RSM just couldn't recover from there.
That was a great job by QXC.
Yeah.
Just making things happen and picking up that game. I mean, it's gonna move us into our second map now.
Yeah. QXC really showing complete dominance there.
It's a very strong game, and even someone in my case can pick up on something that quick. So.
Yeah. You know, when you talk about the game and everything that was happening, there wasn't really a point where QXC was worried. It was always RSM on his back, but always RSM worrying about, okay, how do I deal with these Banshees? How do I deal with these Hellions? And then once he was able to get the mutas out, his Spire was sniped, which sets him back so far. That's what he was building for. He was building for that Spire, which eventually gets you, again, that Infestor, you know, it's the tech path leading to that. The Infestor Broodlord, of course, Spire required for the Corruptors, required for the Broodlords. But QXC able to snipe that, and RSM just was unable to get his economy up and running, was unable to get any solid unit composition on the field, and QXC showing great control throughout Game 1. This is going to be Game 2. RSM must win this game to extend it to a Game 3. In the bottom left-hand location, we have the purple Terran player QXC from Team Complexity, currently up 1-0. If he wins one more game, he will advance to the next round to play Kawaii Rise from Team Light. Of course, RSM is your Zerg player in the top right-hand location, showing maybe a little bit of rust in Game 1 there, but he certainly has the ability to come back. I've seen crazier things happen.
Well, that was one of those things that we were talking about beforehand, too, though, is just kind of that early start of a day, especially at a competition. Just kind of got to get it back into your groove. And
that's interesting to talk about, too. Like, you can talk about nerves, too.
Yeah, nerves is always a big part of it.
Obviously, like, you know, you've seen players who maybe show phenomenal results online, but when they get to a live event, it affects you. You know, it affects you being around a lot of people. A lot of people are watching you. You're being casted on a stream.
Yep.
Again, you're not necessarily in your environment that's ideal. Obviously, you know, we try to make the environment as close as possible to that. But there are elements like, again, we talked about it. Getting here
typically
early.
I do have cosplay walking around my apartment, so that does happen quite frequently.
You know, maybe you're trying to impress someone or whatever, but there's a lot of elements that you have to consider. So the good news is for RSM, he got that first game out of the way. So maybe he can be like, all right, I lost that one. Let's bring it back. I feel more comfortable. Let's do this. I'm going to adjust my play a little bit. I'm choosing the map. RSM chose the map, so obviously he's going to be comfortable on this map.
With that being said, though, too, QXC was the one that selected that first map as well, so take that in consideration.
Yeah. So, you know, the variable is going to be a little bit different leading into this game. And let's talk about the openings really quick. Both players, this is very consistent with the current metagame. Actually, this is a very fast third hatchery. RSM did this last game, too. This is more of a ZVP build. But obviously he's doing it. He's doing it on this map, so he feels comfortable doing it. But again, he's investing a lot into this early economy. We saw how that went for him in the first game.
Yep.
We saw QXC was able to identify it early. We saw QXC building those Hellions, building those Banshees, which did a lot of damage to RSM. RSM was unable to get his economy going. And look at this, he got 3 hatcheries before even his spawning pool. And for people who don't realize, you know, how extreme that is investing in your economy, you can't make attacking units until your spawning pool gets out. I mean, you can call a drone an attacking unit, but it's really not. Your drone is there obviously to build your buildings and to build your economy. Your spawning pool you need for your queens, you need for your zerglings, you need to defend against, you know, any type of aggression from your opponent. But the good news here for RSM is his opponent is investing into his economy as well. So it's not like QXC went for a lot of early unit production, not a lot of early you know, infrastructure production as far as unit production is concerned. Only has 1 barracks on the field, his first Marine coming out. So RSM can afford to do this. Now, if QXC had stayed on 1 base, and let's say he built 2 barracks up here or something, and he was doing a lot of early aggression, then RSM would die right now. But I think he was able to scout that his opponent would for that fast expand, so he can feel safe to do this spawning pool first. Also, something that's pretty interesting to consider is, think about where RSM is positioned right now. He's down 0-1. What does he need to do to win Game 2? He was pretty vastly outplayed in Game 1, so he has to cut some corners. He has to take some risks if he wants to win this game. So he has elected in Game 1, in Game 2, His risk is going for that very fast 3 hatcheries, even before spawning pool, kind of banking on QXC, going for an economic route as well, but RSM really going to be focusing on churning those drones out at this point in the game, just trying to give himself that early economic advantage, of course cutting some corners to get there, but he really wants to give himself those early advantages, which is what you have to do against a solid player like QXC. You got to, as much as you can, try to get those early advantage, cut those corners, so you can, again, get closer to that late game where the Zerg army is incredibly strong. All right, so we see QXC teching up a little bit. Got that factory on the way, starting to churn out those Hellions. We see a starport with and it's a tech lab in position. So the starport is going to be lifted off and landed onto that tech lab, and we're going to see some Banshees produced. We saw how much damage those Banshees did in Game 1, and QXC is going to get cloaked for it. At least he has the gas to do so, but we'll definitely keep an eye on that. Once that gets to 200, let's see if he makes it. We'll keep watching that. But again, we saw how effective those Banshees were and the Hellions were in Game 1. We'll have to see how RSM prepares for them in Game 2. That's another element of a best of 3. You can kind of know what your opponent's doing, and there we see the cloak upgrade being researched. You know what your opponent did in Game 1, so you can kind of start preparing for them doing maybe the same thing in Game 2, and that's what RSM is doing here. He has some Lings in position to potentially try to catch QXC off guard. He has a Queen here to defend, has a nice Evolution Chamber wall, has a Spine Crawler right outside that natural expansion, even a Spine at his 3rd base, just trying to stay extremely safe. Last game, I don't think he had a Spine outside his 3rd base.
Not that I recall.
And we saw how many drones died. I mean,
Yes.
you remember the drones tried to split up. The Hellions killed all of them. But in this game, we're seeing a difference. These drones are staying alive, and that's huge for RSM. So it's going to be up to QXC to get some damage done. He's trying to poke forward with these Hellions. RSM trying to get us around with those Zerglings, but RSM going to back away. And QXC going to retain map control for now. QXC also taking a 3rd base behind this. So again, investing heavily into that economy. But the power hitters have yet to come out. The cloaked Banshees. A story of this game is how RSM can prepare against those, because if he can prevent those cloaked Banshees from doing damage, it's going to be a 100% different game than last game, and RSM is really going to have a chance to knock QXC out in this game. But again, that's you know, we got a long way to go here. We see these Zerglings again trying to pursue these Hellions, but QXC adding on 2 more. That's not going to be enough. And behind this, QXC is going for a mech build, adding on 2 armories, which means that Zerglings aren't going to be incredibly effective, which I'm a little bit worried for RSM right now, because he's investing a lot into these Zerglings. 1-1 is on the way for the Zerglings. Against Hellions, we've seen how strong Hellions are against these Zerglings, and QXC, he's probably going to research Blue Flame relatively soon, which can absolutely decimate Lings. So, that being said, what RSM needs to do here is identify that his opponent is going for the mech composition. He needs to throw down a Roach Horn and start investing into his Roaches, which are a better counter to the mech play that we're going to see from QXC. We see RSM trying to defend against these Banshees, doing a lot better than last game. If we look at workers killed, no workers killed here for QXC. RSM has 50 Harvesters. He's okay with that, but now we see some workers dying here. Spore Crawler's a little bit late in the main base. Drones getting targeted down here by QXC. Again, this is something RSM wants to prevent. Bringing 2 Queens over here. The lair is done, so he can make an Overseer to try to detect these Banshees. And RSM doing a good job fending off this aggression. However, oh, nice surround. Wow, RSM surrounding those Hellions is actually a really huge deal. However, QXC, he's able to get this 3rd up.
Yep.
That's a really important part of all this. Now, in QXC's mind, he could be like, all right, I just want to be safe. In his mind, he doesn't necessarily need to do that economic damage that he did last game, because he's taking such a faster 3rd base. So he's more like, all right, I'm going to do this damage. I'm going to be threatening. I'm going to try to keep my Zerg opponent at home, worrying about this economic harassment, so I can get my 3rd up. That being said, RSM going to counterattack immediately into the 3rd base. QXC is going to have to leave all these SCVs. Doesn't want them to die. Turret getting done. This is not a planetary fortress, so it's not going to have that ability to defend against these Lings. Hellions coming forward here from QXC to try to deal with this. If anything, he can just lift this off, but RSM going to back away with the Lings, doing a great job targeting down those SCVs, showing a lot more aggressive potential than he did last game. If you remember last game, RSM, he wasn't able to do anything to QXC as far as
the whole time.
He was having to worry about his own economic line, but now RSM feeling a lot more comfortable to do economic aggression of his own, and it's working a little bit. That being said, though, again, we see the Roach Horn on the way. He just identified what we were talking about before. His opponent is going mech, so he's going to start making those roaches, start investing into the roaches. We see the +1 missile attacks, which again is investment into those roaches, and of course roaches instrumental against mech play. We see RSM coming to this third base, targeting down those SCVs, doing a great job with that. And yeah, a very vastly different game than last game, where we saw RSM. Oh, look at these drones! Not sure what they're doing. They're going to return home. They're not supposed to be out there. They're not attacking units. But yeah, really a big difference from last game. RSM. 3 bases, 4 bases, able to do some damage to QXC. 19 workers killed. He's actually ahead in Harvester, 69 to 53. Something we didn't see last game. So RSM setting himself up much nicer in this game than last game. Going into Mutila's production, has some some roaches on the way. There's still a Banshee being pesky somewhere. There it is. Gonna cloak. Again, you need that Overseer to be able to detect that Banshee. And RSM gonna try to do some damage with these Mutas. We'll have to see if it's going to be effective. We have 2 turrets here from QXC at the third base. 2 Thors marching over, so QXC getting those defenses in place. These Mutas shouldn't do much damage at all. But again, when you're considering what RSM is trying to accomplish with these, we saw this in the early game with QXC, making those Hellions, making those Banshees. Sure, it's nice if you can get that damage done to the economy, but what was important for that for QXC was getting that time. That's time that your opponent is worrying about defending against that, which is time you have to get your fast third up. In a similar situation here, RSM getting the Mutos out, he doesn't necessarily have to do damage. He's trying to give himself time. Researching Teth, Pathogen Glands, Spoilers and Pesters, getting roaches out, getting this 4th up. Uh-oh, speaking of the 4th, Hellions going straight to that 4th base, going after those drones. This is exactly what RSM does not want. It's been the story of the series, keeping those drones alive. Those roaches were not in position, and all those drones getting absolutely decimated. And now QXC, he's happy with that. He's just going to back away with those Hellions, and now RSM going to have to rebuild those drones. That's money he doesn't want to spend right now. He wants to spend that money on additional tech, additional upgrades, additional army. So QXC doing a great job there, taking down all those drones from RSM, but now again these Hellions don't shoot up, so these Mutas going to chill, which is fine. But again, RSM really needs to focus on protecting those workers, protecting his economy, so he can really build his infrastructure, really build that unit composition, tech up a lot, get to that late game unit composition that we said has been so strong. This is pretty scary looking, isn't it?
All across the board, they're seeing.
It's a lot of Thors, a lot of tanks here. QXC might decide to push out, however, RSM is approaching max. You can only get 200 supply in StarCraft 2. RSM is 194 out of 194. QXC only at 159. RSM trying to see, okay, what's my opponent's unit composition? How should I prepare for this? What do I need to get out on the field to deal with this composition? Electing to make roaches, investing more into those missile attacks, going up to Hive. His Spire is done, so again, because he made those Mutas, so once that Hive is complete, we should see this Spire being made into a greater Spire, which will bring him closer to those Broodlords. Alright, another pretty cool thing that's going on here is this army, while it's really, really strong, it's not that mobile. It's really slow. It's really slow. So RSM, he has a mobile army. He's going to try to counterattack into the third base, trying to take QXC off guard, going straight for that third base. QXC getting another command center on the way. Very nice Sim City here, walling off, keeping those roaches out. The Banshee's coming forward here, though. And roaches can't shoot up. Roaches cannot shoot up, so they're not going to want to engage you. They're going to run home as fast as they can. And QXC doing a great job defending against this attempted harassment from RSM. But RSM is maxed, again, making that greater Spire, which brings you to those Broodlords. And that's when things are going to get really scary. But he doesn't have them out yet. So you could theorize, okay, QXC might have a timing here where he can hit before his opponent gets those Broodlords out. But RSM has to focus on preventing that from happening. Hellions coming forward here from QXC. Again, these are units he can sacrifice at this point in the game, just trying to go after his opponent's economy. It's been a story throughout the series, throughout this game. Sees the greater Spire in production. That's actually a huge deal for really QXC. Big. Does that trigger a timing? It might. He's sending those roaches, those Thors right up the middle, and the Hellions finally getting cleaned up. But QXC saw the progress of that greater Spire. We'll have to see how he reacts. Looks like he's not going to push. Not feeling confident. Just going to stay back for now. Again, he's not maxed. He's building Ravens, so he's building his late game composition. He's going to try to take on this late game Zerg army, and we'll have to see if he can mold the proper unit composition. We see RSM coming forward with him. He's going after those SCVs. Banshees cloaking up the Corruptors, trying to do damage. Oh no! A lot of Corruptors dying for free to those Thors. Those Corruptors are so important. That's what makes your Broodlords. You got to keep those alive. And there we see 3 Broodlords in production. However, QXC might be able to see this. Oh, and he does. No, this is not where you want to morph those in. RSM going to back those away immediately and going to remake them back here. But QXC, it's time to go for him. Thors, tanks, Banshees coming forward. RSM trying to slow this down. Really needs those Broodlords on the field to be able to deal with this unit composition as ferocious as this. 4 Broodlords on the way. They need to get finished right now. He does not want to lose this base. It looks like this base might, in fact, go down. QXC doing a great job with this push, showing the ferocity of those Thors, targeting down the Broodlords. RSM only has 5 Broodlords, keep that in mind. He's going to have 6 pretty soon. But he's going to have to make those extremely cost-effective. And we'll have to see if he can make it happen. QXC is just going to, he's going to say, okay, you got those Broodlords out. I'm not willing to engage. I'll go home. Now, I'm fine with that. I'm going to get my Ravens on the field. I'm going to try to get a bit of competition. But RSM is not going to let him lead. He's pursuing with the Roaches and the Broodlords, targeting down those Thors. RSM getting some great damage down to QXC's army, but QXC showing the power of Thors and tanks, doing a lot of damage to RSM, throwing down a Mule. Not sure. I guess he was very confident there. At first I thought the Mule was to repair, maybe to get vision of the Broodlords. Maybe it was a scan. It was supposed to be a scan, but QXC backing away for now. He's up 171 to 124. Has 4 bases, 5 bases. He can rebuild those Thors. 3 Thors in production, but RSM, he's going to try to get damage done with all of these Broodlords, with all of these Corruptors. QXC on the run. Raven coming forward. Point defense drone will help against those against those Broodling attacks. But RSM, he's down to 77 supply. We're seeing Hellions actually killing everything. What we missed there, the Hellions have been running all over RSM's side of the map. All these drones are dead at the 3rd. RSM has 11 Harvesters. RSM has 11 Harvesters. RSM must win the game with this push, or he will fall down to the lower bracket. He has no economy right now. He has no ability to rebuild, but QXC, again, destroying absolutely everything, up 171 to 67 in that supply. Zergling's trying to do a counterattack in the 3rd, but at this point, again, RSM, economic damage isn't going to do it. He has to kill QXC. He has absolutely no ability to rebuild, but QXC, again, he's staying alive. He's showing how to play Terran. He's playing this extremely well. RSM trying to rebuild drones, but there's the GG from RSM. Wow. So QXC taking the 2-0. He will advance to the next round of the winner's bracket. He will play Kawaii Rice. QXC showing convincing play in RSM. Unfortunately for him, he's going to fall down to the lower bracket, but showed signs of great play, honestly.
Well, he definitely tried to adapt there in that second game.
I love that point. He did. He absolutely did. That's so important in a best of 3. In any game, you know, you identify your opponent's play style, you identify what your opponent's good at, and you adjust based on what he does.
So let's kind of take a look there what happened throughout that whole second game. So again, QXC, he played extremely well throughout the game. He was trying to expand, and so he's going to get move on to play Kawaii Rice. And so that's going to be a good battle to watch. It's going to be a Terran versus Terran.
Yep. And again, about that game, RSM did a great job preventing the early drone barbecues. Right? QXC tried to do the damage with the Hellions and Banshees, was not able to get as much damage done as he did in game 1. RSM, great job there defending that off. But as the game went along, QXC kept sending Hellion after Hellion after Hellion after Hellion. You can do that. You can do that when you're on 4 bases. As a Terran player and you're going mech. You can make a billion Hellions if you want to. He kept sending them after his opponent's economy. And RSM, you know, while he did a great job defending against that in the early game, as the game went along, there were just so many Blue Flame Hellions. And he wasn't able to prevent that damage from being done. His economy was gone. And once your economy is gone, it's very hard to win in StarCraft 2.
Yeah.
Especially when your opponent has, I think he had like 6 orbitals, a ridiculous economy. And again, that composition of Thors, tanks. It's all about trading efficiently against that and rebuilding as a Zerg. But you can't rebuild if you don't have economy. QXC, great play going after his opponent's economy. RSM, down the lower bracket. So
it was your first matchup there between QXC and RSM. Again, we've got more StarCraft 2 action coming your way here from the WCG USA National Finals. Right here live at the New York Comic-Con, brought to you by Samsung Notebook Series 7 Gamer. Again, I'm Corey Dunn alongside Axel Toss, and we'll be right back with more StarCraft 2